Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about the psychology of negotiation and really why so many deals just fall apart. We're going to give you some powerful tools to flip those high-pressure moments and turn them into your biggest advantage.
This quote, it really gets right to the heart of it. Why do so many deals just completely fall apart? It's almost never about the numbers, is it? It's about the mindset. I mean, think about it for a second. When's the last time you saw negotiation actually work once emotions ran wild? The moment that happens, logic just walks right out the door, and yeah, the deal usually isn't far behind. So what is this silent deal killer we're talking about? Well, it's the hidden reason that deals just totally collapse under pressure. And the craziest part? It's something most of us do without even knowing it. The source material actually has a great name for it: emotional inelegance. And what is that? Well, you know what I'm talking about. It's that nervous little laugh or the slight quiver in your voice when you're under stress. It's that urge to just keep talking and over-explain yourself when you feel cornered. That right there is the silent deal killer because it's leaking weakness. You're signaling to the other side that you're rattled before you've even said a word. And this right here is the huge difference between the amateurs and the pros. Look, winning a negotiation isn't about being the loudest or the most aggressive person in the room. Not at all. It's about being the most composed. It's about holding your ground, staying calm, while everyone else is getting flustered. That calm, that's your real leverage. Okay, so we've nailed down the problem. Now, let's talk about the solution. And it all starts with a pretty fundamental shift in how you approach the whole thing. See, your mindset, it isn't just something you do to prepare. It's your number one weapon when you walk into that room. And this gets to a really core principle here. The second you hear yourself start arguing about what's fair, you need to stop, because you've already lost control. Deals don't reward emotion. They don't care about fair. They reward discipline. It's the logic that keeps a deal moving forward, and it's that raw emotion that'll kill it dead in its tracks every single time. And a huge part of this, by the way, is just preparing your own team. The source material points this out, and it's a big one. Just by pre-framing expectations, explaining to your client ahead of time that, hey, we might make some concessions, but these are tactical moves, not us being weak. That alone can boost your success rate by 25%. 25%. And why? It's simple. It takes the panic right out of your side of the equation. Okay, this slide just lays it out so perfectly. Look at the difference. On one side, you've got the weak position, right? You're arguing for fairness. It's all based on emotion. On the other side, you've got the strong position, framing every single concession as a trade. You never, ever just give something away for free. It's always, sure, we can do that for you, if you can do this for us. That's how you stay in the driver's seat. And you have to remember, negotiation is all about perception. Seriously, it's not just the numbers on a page, it's the story you build around those numbers. So instead of just flat out saying no to a price cut, you reframe it. You say something like, okay, let's look at how we can restructure this to get you where you need to be. Why? Because whoever owns the story, whoever defines the problem, well, they're the ones who get to define the solution. All right, so let's get into the fun stuff. How does this mindset actually translate into specific psychological tactics you can use to get a real edge? Let's talk about time, because time is one of your most powerful and honestly most underused tools. When you rush, what does that scream? Desperation. But when you pause, when you delay, when you create just a little bit of scarcity, what does that do? It creates psychological discomfort for the other side. And that discomfort, that's what makes people move. Oh, and this one is pure gold, and it's backed up by research from places like Harvard Law. It's about silence. The other side makes an offer, and you just wait. You don't say a word. The human urge to fill that silence is so powerful, it's almost unbearable. And what happens? Most people will crack. They'll start negotiating against themselves just to break that awful tension. You just have to sit back and let the silence do all the heavy lifting for you. So, mastering silence is one half of the coin. The other half, it's knowing what to listen for when they are talking. To get that real strategic advantage, you've got to learn to hear what's not being said. You have to listen past the surface level stuff to figure out what's really driving them. And as you can see here, the loud problem is really just the tip of the iceberg. It's the stuff they're talking about out loud, price, terms, the numbers. But the real problem, the thing that's actually driving the whole negotiation,
is hidden deep under the water, and it's almost always emotional. Maybe they're arguing over a tiny price difference because they're terrified of getting taken for a ride. Or maybe they won't budge on a specific term because it's about their ego. If you can figure out and solve that real problem, the loud one on the surface has a funny way of just disappearing.
And really, this is what it all boils down to. The best negotiators, they aren't cold, unfeeling robots. Not at all. They are absolute masters of composure. They get their own emotions, they get the other side's emotions, and they use that understanding as a strategic tool. I love how the source material puts it. They literally weaponize calm. Okay, so this is all great in theory, right? But let's get super practical. How do you actually give something up in a negotiation without just giving away your power? So, how do you make the other side feel like they got a huge win without actually hurting your bottom line? It's all about finding these high-value, low-cost concessions. You look for things that have a super high perceived value to them, but that don't actually cost you much at all. We're talking about things like flexible closing dates, maybe some staging, or extended possession periods. It scratches their itch for a win, but you get to protect the stuff that really matters to you. Now this is probably the single biggest trap in any negotiation. You've got a gap, right? And what's the first easiest thing to do? Let's just meet in the middle. But the source material calls this lazy math, and for good reason, because the middle ground is almost never the smartest, most strategic place to land. So instead of just splitting it down the middle, a pro will actually restructure the entire gap. Here's how it works. First, you pinpoint the exact disagreement. Then, and this is the key, you start adding new variables into the mix. You bring in things like timing, or other terms, or even risk. And what this lets you do is create a whole new package, a new outcome that feels totally balanced, even though you might have given up way, way less than if you just cut it down the middle. Okay, let's pull back for a second and look at the big picture here. Because all of these tactics, they're not just about winning this one single deal. No, they're about building something much bigger, your ultimate long-term advantage. Look, in the long run, any deal you bully your way through, any win you get by losing your cool, that's actually a loss for your credibility. The people who really, truly succeed in the long game are the ones who are known for being composed, for being steady under fire. Over time, that reputation becomes your brand. And this quote just nails the ultimate payoff. Think about it. Whatever you give up in one deal, that's temporary. It's gone. But your reputation for being calm, strategic, and always in control, that compounds. It grows over time. And eventually, it becomes its own kind of leverage that you bring into every single negotiation you ever do. So the question is, in your next deal, who's going to own the room? It's time to stop begging for deals by reacting with emotion. Start negotiating with that quiet confidence, that composure of someone who already knows they're in control, precisely because they don't have to shout to prove it.